there's just something about winning a game on defense. I think about Sunday Night Football. I think about the Niners-Rams game in overtime earlier this year. I think about 2019, Dre Greenlaw, Jacob Hollister, Week 18, I guess Week 17, Niners-Seahawks, which we'll get a replay of that on Saturday. I think about the pick of the stick. I was on the field for that game. I thought the Falcons were going to score for sure. Sunday Night Football was a bonanza against the Bears. What's up, everybody? Guy here. It is early Monday morning. I did not do a Sunday night reaction, but here we are. It was so many things I want to hit on. I think the first thing is they're going to play Saturday. They're going to play Saturday against the Seahawks for the 1 seed. We are, as of Monday, 41 days from the Super Bowl. The 49ers have a chance to have basically, a 42 game homestand, 42 day, not game, 42 day homestand if you count Sunday night. If they beat the Seahawks on Saturday, they'll have a chance to have a 42-day homestand. They are 4 wins away from the Lombardi, which sounds crazy. I think it would have been crazy early in the year. It was. This team, what they didn't have. We spent a lot of time talking about what they didn't have. And I think when the NFC playoffs start, there's going to be a lot of talk about what nobody has. Philly statistically has a good defense. The Rams have the best balance probably of offense and defense. The Seahawks have statistically the best defense in the NFC. They can beat you. There's no question about it. They're a good football team, but we've been talking about Seattle for a long time. I don't want to jump ahead yet. You guys know, I think you know where I'm at them. I don't think they're a championship team. And so, it's a wide open NFC is the point. I think there's a major Brock Purdy headline. Clearly one of the best games of his career. I thought it was authentic for people to say, like, oh, the Colts game. I think it's funny when you hear, like, oh, the Colts game, one of the best games he's ever played. Or, Kyle Shanahan was asked after the Titans game, this was the best game that Trent Williams has ever played. PFF grade. And he's like, yeah, he didn't say it this way, but Trent's probably not sitting at home when he retires 5 years from now going, the peak of my career was that Tennessee game, week 16 for the 49ers. No, week 15, whatever it was. No. So, was the Colts game really good for Brock? Yeah. The Bears game on Sunday night was, I think, far superior. People hate when you say this quarterback's going against this quarterback. It's like they're not on the field at the same time. Yeah, but Sunday night is what we're talking about. It's Phillip Rivers, the story is amazing. Phillip Rivers was crushing beers on the 19th hole a month ago. Caleb Williams is the future. It's one of the futures of the NFL. Because the Bears with Ben Johnson are becoming what the Packers were supposed to be with Jordan Love, except Caleb's better. What the Lions were supposed to be with Jared Goff, except Caleb's better. And there's no shame in that. This guy has all the skills of a number 1 pick. He's got that thing where you go, it's very like kind of basketball where you're like, I don't care what Steph Curry's shooting percentage is today. He terrifies me. So, Caleb was 6 of 12 at one point in that game, with 2 touchdowns of 35 yards or more. And they were laser beams. He was awesome. And, in the ongoing, never-ending, which is fine with me, because I think these things take time, argument about what exactly Brock Purdy is, the moments matter more than the efficiency stats. In fact, if you're too efficient, statistically, it's suspicious. I've said this for a long time pre-Brock. When you look at a quarterback in college and his completion percentage is 78%, you're like, that's not a real stat. That's not real football. You're not challenging yourself enough. I think one of the most eye-opening things for me in the last, in the analytics era of sports was the idea that a player in baseball could have a worse defensive rating because he's a better player. Not defensive rating solves this. I guess he could have more errors because he's a better player than another player, right? A shortstop could have more errors than another shortstop because he's better, not because he's worse. And he's got better range. So he gets to more balls. He tries to make more difficult plays and thus gets charged with more errors. And I think, efficiency stats sometimes are like, that's great. Are you making difficult enough plays? And it's hard when the efficiency stats put you in the same category as like Tua a couple years ago, where you go, oh, this is the most efficient quarterback who's ever lived other than Jimmy Garoppolo. You're like, hold on, wait a second. That's not the standard. Now, I think, and I've said for a while, Brock is definitely better than Tua, and he's definitely better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think if you're going to make an argument, the winning argument isn't always about the numbers and efficiency. It's about, let me watch you go toe to toe in a game that requires you to make a bunch of plays, and then you make them. And what I loved about that, about Sunday night, in hindsight now, but even I thought this during the moment, is like a pick six at the end of the game is devastating. A pick six on the first play of the game is an opportunity. It's an opportunity. And now you're starting your all world left tackle Trent Williams got hurt on the same play. So it had a chance to be one of the most devastating plays you ever could imagine. But it's an opportunity. No college admissions, no effective college admissions application letter says everything was easy, life is great, please accept me. No, they want to see, like, here is a challenge I overcame. My buddy Yogi Roth, who's a fantastic analyst, and I work with him the last couple of years on Big Ten Network doing TV. He also has worked with quarterbacks for years, and he has this thing called PACE, P-A-C-E, plays after critical errors. Plays after critical errors. He wants to see what a quarterback does after a pick, right? And I always think about it in life, like, all right, got frustrated with the baby. He went down for a nap. Next time he's up, plays after critical errors. Can I not get frustrated this time around? But plays after critical errors, it's one of the things when Brock was rightly criticized 2 years ago, Monday Night Football, almost 2 years to the day. It was the same game, basically. The Niners were 11-3 and the Ravens were 11-3, and Brock threw 4 interceptions. And I said after that game, that's bad. And, I think that's been part of the thing for Purdy is, can he play in the primetime games really well? What did we have going into the Colts game? I think the stat was, I don't remember exactly, but it was like 5 touchdowns, 11 picks, 32% of his career interceptions had come on Monday Night Football. So now he's played back-to-back excellent primetime games, but this one was special. But I thought that Ravens game, the one thing about Purdy when he threw 4 interceptions in that Ravens game, was he kept throwing. Like, he kept taking, he didn't go into a shell. He didn't get better, but he didn't go into a shell in terms of taking chances. So efficiency is great. Consistency with efficiency is how you give yourself a chance to win a championship. But gas mileage isn't the only thing that wins you the Grand Prix, right? You've got to be able to have high-end speed. You've got to be able to take chances and cut corners. I'm not really a racing guy, but I just watched the F1 movie. You've got to be able to overtake talented drivers. I'll stop making this a racing thing. You got to make plays. The way he created and was pretty disciplined in terms of, like, putting the ball in harm's way was special. With plenty of team, it's more likely that you're gonna have to overcome mistakes and adversity than that you're gonna play the perfect game. So the question is not really ever, can you play the perfect game? In golf, it's never, can you birdie every hole, right? It's how do you respond after the bogey? So the Colts' performance was great. This was so much better because you had to keep going. You didn't get to play from a play from in front and have the other team kind of quit and then stack it up afterwards and put up big numbers. And again, the Colts thing was legit, but it was so different than this. This was so different. And the Colts on paper have a better defense, but this was toe to toe with another guy who can steal the game from you. I mean, this game was tied 5 times. It was tied at 7. It was tied at 14. It was tied at 21. It was tied at 28. It was tied at 35. That was Kyle Shanahan and Ben Johnson facing off. Each had their weapon. Gentlemen, choose your weapon. And one guy had Caleb and one guy had Brock. And, it was just an incredible display. It was an incredible display from both of them. By the way, how about this stat? And this is where it's like, this is not the stat that tells you how that wins you any arguments, but it's an interesting stat. So I know when I say these kinds of stats, people are like, oh, these stats are ridiculous. You're not, it's just an interesting stat. Players to have 11 plus touchdowns passing, 2 plus rushing touchdowns in a 3-game span. Purdy in the last 3 games. Tom Brady, 2007 MVP. Steve Young, 1994 MVP. Just an interesting stat. There's a movie called Boondock Saints, and I've never had the chance to use this, and maybe I never will, but there's a scene in that movie, William Dafoe is recreating a shootout scene, and he has this line, which you don't even need to know the movie. The line would just, I love using lines that you don't need to know the movie, but I've always had in the back of my head, maybe there'd be a moment, like in a basketball game where 2 guys are going back and forth, going off. where William Dafoe screams, "There was a firefight. There was a firefight." I didn't use it, but anyway, that's what the Kyle Shanahan, Ben Johnson performance was last night. I mean, Ben Johnson calling the hook, I guess the slant. Tim Ryan was calling it the slant and lateral. Um, to try and with whatever it was, 11 seconds left with no timeouts, felt like he was trying to win the game on that play. And it was a gutsy call. It was a lay it on the table call, and it got him a first down. And they got down and spiked the football with 4 seconds, and they had one play left. But that was the type of play. That was the type of play call that I don't even know if Kyle would call it. Kyle has called that recently. I mean, that goes back to the Lions. The Dan Campbell do whatever. Well, it turns out Ben Johnson, took a big risk on a play call last week that didn't work in the red zone, still won the game against Green Bay. But that was just like, if that wins you the game. I don't think it was an ego call. I think he's calling what he thinks will work, but it was a major ego. That would have been a major, only a genius makes that play call, right? Like, if it works. And again, he did it with enough time to still get down there and spike the football. So, all-time Brock performance, signature Purdy performance, because of the stage, because of the opponent, because of what it means. Now you can beat the Seahawks, be the 1 seed, and I think because of what it indicates, can this team be what they need to be? Part of saying their defense isn't good enough to win a championship is also saying your offense can't overcome your defense. So can you do it if you're playing Denver in the Super Bowl, right? With that defense, that's a scary proposition. But this is where the 1 seed is so critical. Trent Williams, the hamstring, George Kittle, the foot or the ankle. Can you get a bye? Can you beat Seattle? I don't love the Saturday night game. I don't think the Niners are disadvantaged. I mean, Seattle's coming from across the country. But I don't love the Saturday night. But I guess for the losing team, the Niners or the Seahawks, the benefit will be you played on Saturday, so you probably, you get an extra day to prepare for whoever your wild card opponent is. But the better thing is just to not be playing in that wild card game at all. I think if your opinion has ever been Kyle Shanahan should be fired, that's it. It's not a disqualifying opinion, but it's a strike. Like, if you had Trey Lance is better than Sam Darnold and Kyle Shanahan should be fired, that's 2 strikes. 3 strikes, you're out. Now, I don't think a lot of people had Kyle Shanahan should be fired. I think there was some, there's pressure on Kyle this year to respond after last year, and that's fair. 100 everybody, you don't get to be great because you were good 3 years ago. You have to keep it going. The league evolves, things change, coaches lose their grip on teams, all those things happen. So you have to keep proving it. There's no question about it. But what this guy has proven, and I don't know if he'll be coach of the year this year. There are some really good candidates. He should be coach of the year if they're the 1 seed. As good as the Liam Cohen candidacy, I think Sean Payton, if I had to vote right now, definitely Ben Johnson. I think Sean might be the guy I would vote for if I didn't vote for Kyle. But if this team wins the NFC and is the 1 seed, if they win 13 games, how do you not make Kyle Shanahan the NFL coach of the year? He's never been, even though he's clearly a top, I think, inarguably a top, I didn't really think of the list, in any given year, top 5 coach. Inarguably. I know, Troy Aikman said the other day he would hire him if he had to hire anybody. So, but this would be the year. Even in this game, no Kittle. They just go right back to Jake Tonjes, who was fantastic. I thought Ricky Pearsall, is Ricky Pearsall gonna just be Brandon Ayuk's replacement? There's another game where they can't cover him. Ricky's just WAO. That I love that term from the Shanahan offense tree, wide ass open. So Ricky is getting, the question was can Ricky Pearsall get open? That was the question, right? When he got drafted, did they overdraft him? Can he consistently get open? He is consistently getting open. And he gave them a scare when he went down after a second catch on Sunday night, but he is consistently getting open. And it made me wonder, some of you guys, if you're an old San Francisco Giants fan, in 2012, the Giants' second World Series win in that stretch of 3, they had a guy named Melky Cabrera who got suspended 50 games. I think he'd played this was into the season. I think he played over 100 games. He gets suspended 50 games, performance-enhancing drugs. The suspension ends. He's a good player, very good hitter. He's good to come back. They're like, we're good. We're not going to put you back on this roster. And I do like, here's Brandon Ayuk, who, what if this team does go on a special run without him? It's already been a special regular season, but what if they go on a special run and he could have been healthy, or he was healthy and had a chance to, he was so mad after they lost the Super Bowl. And, it felt like was dissatisfied, specifically felt like they lost because he didn't get the ball, which, you know what, is not the worst receiver quality to have. That's a receiver quality. But it did cross my mind driving home Sunday night, like, is he going to miss out on this? Understandably, there's so much on the line financially. It's so easy when things are high stakes and people are saying things about people publicly. I understand sensitivities and being offended. One of the things I've said, core value, don't get offended. I try. It's, it doesn't apply to everybody in every situation in life. So don't misunderstand. But who are you robbing? Who are you robbing by not being a part of this? Are you robbing them? Yeah. Yeah. Are you protecting your future? Maybe. But what Juwan Jennings has earned this year, I think he got another bonus on Sunday night. He has been, since the midway point of the season, one of the best receivers in the league. In fact, I think there is not a receiver in the league since week 9 with more touchdowns than Juwan Jennings. I think it's him and Devontae, and, this is before the Rams play on Monday night. He has been incredible. But you lose Kittle, Pearsall replaces in a different way, some of that. And then Tonjes had a great block too. Purdy's legs were such a critical element of the game. You lose Trent Williams and Austin Pleasance. This guy's played 21 offensive snaps this year. He's been on 6 teams if you count practice squads in 5 years, and he steps up and plays a really good game. So it was one of the most special games I've ever seen. I mean, the 2019 Seahawks game at the end of the year, it felt like that. It was without a doubt, one of the best games, maybe the best game I've ever called. The Thursday night game against the Rams was great. This was better. If you missed it, I did call the game on KMBR in for Greg. There was, some hope, and we talked about it, that Greg Papa, the voice of the 49ers, would return on Sunday. Greg's battling cancer, as many of you know. And this was, the hope was this would be kind of the plan was he was feeling better. And I'll let him talk about it at whatever point on his show. But to his credit, and he deserves a lot. This is not, he is I think, as good as it gets in as a broadcaster. Like, he is what happens when you take somebody with elite talent and elite preparation and you put them together and you get the very top of the pyramid. Self-actualization, fully. Wasn't it like a Bradley Cooper movie a few years ago? There was a movie where like a guy takes a pill and like can access the other 98% of his brain that none of us ever access. When I listen to Greg Papa, like, that's what's happening. This is a person operating at the highest level of human achievement when it comes to play-by-play. You can pick whoever your favorite broadcaster is from whatever Hall of Fame you want to pick, and that guy can go toe-to-toe with them. Okay, so there's that. Then there's an incredible – this man is battling cancer, yet he's been a support to me as I'm filling in for him. And I'm sure he felt pressure. I don't know. To come, like you say, you're going to come back, and people go like, "Oh, he's going to be back," and everyone gets excited. And Tirico, his boy, is going to be there. And to his credit, he told me a few days ago, like, "Hey, I talked to him Tuesday. I talked to him Thursday. Whatever. Here's how I'm feeling." And he gave me a chance to prepare in case he couldn't do it. And I was going to be on the sidelines for this last game. And he said, "You know what? I got to." When it came to the day, he decided, and he told Mayoko this, and I said, how do you want me to share this on air? He said, just say I had to make this decision for my health, and the hope is maybe he could do this week. We don't know. I don't know. That's up to him. But the priority is that he's healthy. He is as good as it gets. It's best for everybody if he's back as the voice of the 49ers, and we want him. I know he wants to be at his best for that. And the funny thing about it is, like, 80% of him is still better than 99.9% of the best, like not of guys doing whatever random stuff, like of the best. He is excellent, and it's a gift to hear him, and it's an honor to fill in for him. And we had a lot of fun on Sunday night, but he is missed and was missed, and I don't know. Perhaps he'll be back on his radio show, and we'll talk about it. So it's not my place, and frankly, I can't imagine what it's like. But he's a special man and a special broadcaster, and the moment was lesser for his absence. But hopefully we did it justice. And Tim Ryan, who's the analyst, is incredible. He's also fantastic and a great teammate. I got a text from a buddy of mine in broadcasting who's an analyst who's like, that Sunday night show was a teach tape. Speaking of Tirico and Collinsworth. So I want to watch that back and watch the L22 because we ground the tape, but also watch that TV broadcast because I heard it was really excellent. I have not noticed, but I don't think they play "Don't Stop Believing" after every game at Levi Stadium. But Journey was there, and I'm confused. I didn't get the information, but that wasn't Steve Perry, right? I don't. I remember I saw him Journey several years ago without him. It was them, and I think it was them. This can't be right. I want to say it was them and Luke Bryan. That cannot be right. Yeah, maybe I'm getting two different concerts mixed up. But I remember standing behind Middlecoff and I one year, the San Francisco Giants in the playoffs, and we didn't have tickets. We had media passes. We were just walking around, and we end up on like the club level, and we're just kind of standing there. And then we're kind of on screen. The next thing we know, Steve Perry stands up from his seat in front of us, and he has a microphone, and he's singing "Don't Stop Believing" for Giants fans. And we were on, we're in the background, like, what is going? Where are we? So they had the concert at halftime of the Niner game, "Don't Stop Believing." They play it after the game. The funny thing is, I got home, and my wife had just put the baby to bed, and we were talking. I said, "Did they show that?" She's like, "Yeah, they showed it on TV." When our son was born 6.5 weeks ago, they said, "Hey, you can bring music, play some music, whatever." And so there was a bunch of music playing, and he was born during "Don't Stop Believing," so maybe it's a sign. I definitely thought that was the song that wasn't. We didn't queue up the song for the birth. It just so happened that song was playing. So, I don't think it's "Don't Stop Believing" with this Niner team. I think it's more like, do you dare start believing? What do they have to do? You beat Seattle this week. How can it not be a conversation? So anyway, the one thing I didn't mention McCaffrey. 398 touches now this year, which is 5 shy of his career high of 403. How did he look so good? He looked amazing. 41-yard carry for Christian ensured that the 49ers wouldn't go through the regular season with the longest run of the year being Brock Purdy's 26-yard run against Tennessee 2 weeks ago. And it was a night, I think, that it was a performance that it was a performance that matched up with like the way I felt about Christian's year. Sometimes you look at his yards per carry and it didn't match up what I thought his performance was. And this was different. By the way, I think the weather, what is the weather in Santa Clara this weekend? Right now it's supposed to rain again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The rain's supposed to break Sunday. So significant that this game is on Saturday night instead of Sunday, and I do think it favors the 49ers. I know that the Niners are this is interesting. The Niners are rushing, yeah. So the Niners are third worst in the league, 3.8 yards per carry. That feels to me, I maybe I should do a split of like late season and then now. But that feels like a kind of a stale stat, if I think back on the way this year has played out. So, all right, that's it for this. Thanks for hanging. Talk soon.